Good start. Um, Folks, we have a lot to talk about today. I want you to understand some things. I want you to start to see things that maybe you've never seen before, even though you've ridden by it 1,000 times, maybe you didn't see it. When I got in this business, I understood something real quick. My boss was a retired Marine captain, a great big guy. He screamed, cussed, and pitched fits, totally opposite from me. But that was his way of conveying a message that you gotta start thinking out of the box. You have to start thinking out of the box. I watched him do something that I realized then that we're human beings and we can do more than one thing. And what he did was, he ran his real estate office, he built his real estate office, he retired from the Marine Corps. He built real estate office, which is St. Augustine Realty, down on the corner of Valencia Street. He built a subdivision up north of town while he was doing it. He and a partner started St. Augustine Memorial Park Cemetery. He and several other guys founded a bank. He was the director of a bank, and he was president of the Board of Realtors. So, come on in, buddy. So, when I tell you that you can do more than one thing, believe me, you can do more than one thing. Now, some of us think different ways. So I sent out an email yesterday, or a text. I'm just going to read it because I don't know who got it and who didn't. Real Estate 101. Find a market and fill it. Make sure you heard that. Find a market and fill it. Don't beat a dead horse. There is plenty of opportunity in finding the right market at the right time and filling it. Right now we have the right market at the right time, and it's easy to fill. All you gotta have is a product. I know some of you sometimes question why I beat you over the head about listings. If everybody in this office had 10 listings, we would not be able to handle the telephone. All right, you wouldn't have, you'd be so busy you wouldn't know what to do. So, to get 10 listings, you have to have a planned activity. I had a conversation with one of the leading realtors in town about a year ago, and I asked him, I said, what do you do different than most realtors? He said, I send out 8,000 postcards a month, asking people for listings. 8,000 postcards a month. It was about mid-year. He said, we have already closed over $15 million in his little group. $15 million worth of sales, and we have enough listings and customers coming that we expect to close $15 million more in sales. So we're not teaching anything different. So everything's in direct proportion. It's all in direct proportion to what you do in this business. Now, I know that sometimes when I say things that it's easy for me to say, and maybe sometimes you want to have a better understanding about how it really works. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how it really works. On my 40th year in the business, Faith Semino, a lady who had been here with me as my personal assistant for 40 years, went out to the airport and rented a helicopter and pilot and a photographer, and she flew over and took pictures of all the projects I had done. Excuse me. She came back and matched that up with the recorded documents, like recorded plaques and so forth. So that book means an awful lot to me, for sure. But it can mean an awful lot to you, hopefully after today. What does that book mean to me? I got to thinking about where we are and where you are in this business and how can I help you the most. And this is what I came up with. Excuse me. That book, all the projects that we did, I had partners in every one of them. I didn't do any of them by myself. I had partners that put up the money or contributed otherwise to doing hundreds of projects and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate transactions over the years and developments and so forth. And I want to stress that to you today because that is one of the dimensions that we have in our 12-dimension plan that we're going to talk about more about today. I'm going to show you how we married dimension this and dimension that and dimension the other, and how you can project yourself out in this business, but you have to do it, okay? I can help you, and I will, but you have to take the leadership role. So that's really what we're talking about today. Real estate marketing 101. When you find a market, fill it. When you find a market, fill it. When you realize that there are listing opportunities and you don't do anything about it, then you're not filling it. So we're talking about you do something better than you've been doing so that you get more listings. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on somewhere. But I want you to think about this. When you ride down 207 today, I want you to think about this. If you see a vacant piece of property, do you think with the growth there is going on 207, there may be a demand for that property? Do you believe that now that maybe if we find a vacant piece of property, we've got a hospital going across the street, do you think that might be in demand? The answer is yes. So why don't we find out who owns that property? Now, with the services that we have online, with Landglide and Forewarn, you can be in touch with that person today. You can be in touch with them in a little while. So we have all the tools, and so we can compare ourselves to big companies and whatever. But the benefits here is today, you would never hear what we're going to teach you, talk about today, in any other company that I'm aware of. So we want to make sure that you find yourself, associate yourself with the idea that when you find a market, you can fill it. There's a need out here, okay? There's not a good restaurant out here, in my opinion. So there are the fast food services and a Mexican restaurant, but there's not a good restaurant here, all right? Do you think maybe that is a need that we could fill? And the answer is yes, okay? Now, they're building a hospital across the street. Do you think there's going to be some doctor's offices needed out here? And the answer is yes, right? And so the questions go on. So we found an area and we started to fill the need, but we're just scratching the surface. And that's out in the 32145 area code, okay, 32145. Are we married to that? The answer is no, right? So when you go out of that area code and you go over to 32177, what do you find? You find the same need with less cost. So it's cheaper to do something in Putnam County than it is in St. Johns County. You can build a house in Putnam County without impact fees, and you can't do it in St. Johns County. So the same house that we would build here, if you built it in Willaca, Florida, it would cost you $36,000 approximately cheaper than you can build the same house in St. Johns County. So who are we going to market that product to? That is the question. And that's we know that we can produce a product that we can meet that market. We know that we can do that. Now, if that is a fact, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to market it? Okay? How are we going to get more sales? How are you going to increase your personal volume? How are you going to start to pick up a commercial deal here and there? And these are all really important questions for you to answer for your future in this business. All right. So most of us can't afford to send out 8,000 cards, but he didn't start sending out 8,000 cards. He started where he started, and he grew up to where he was sending out 8,000 postcards a month. 8,000 postcards a month will produce. We did it on the east side of St. Johns River, the west side of St. Johns River. We did it every lot in Flagler States. If we did every vacant lot all over the Northeast Florida, we would have so much business. And that's what I wanted to meet with you about this morning, was I want you to understand we're here to work together with you as a team. We are a team, and I love each one of you, and I respect you, and I want you to do more business for your sake and your family. So today, if you take this handout that I gave you, the question is, your question to me is, show me the money. Show me where the money is. Show me how I make money doing this. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? How can I step it up a notch? How can I turn it all up a notch? Let me give you some ideas. The riches are in the niches. Okay? Do you understand that? The riches are in the niches. Who ever thought that they'd be bringing brand new double wide mobile homes into Flagler Estates almost on a daily basis. Who ever thought that? Let me tell you about Flagler Estates. 50 years ago, I had an office in Hastings, little mobile home. A guy comes walking in the door one day, nobody knew who he was. He was an engineer for Florida General Equities. He said, we bought 10,000 acres of land out here in the county, and he said, we're going to build a subdivision. I said, what? He said, we're going to build a subdivision. And he said, since you have an office here, we'd like for you to do the solid work, the solidification. I thought, this man has completely lost his mind. He invited me to go to Miami. All right, you're talking about people with a dream now. He said, come to Miami. I want you to meet my bosses. I went to Miami, and there were two young Jewish guys there that owned the company. And I never have been treated any better, any nicer in my life than I was when I went there. He said, we have a phone room set up. Now this is the difference, okay, in how we think. All this is about how we think. He said, we have a phone room set up where we have 4-hour shifts. We have 120 licensed real estate agents selling real estate over the phone all over the world. He said, we start in this time zone and we go all the way to California in the same day. He said, I will only let them work 4-hour shifts. He had a room set up to where he could listen into them, so to make sure that they weren't lying to the public or whatever. And the day I was there, now we're talking about 50 years ago, they sold $186,000 that day, that they actually wrote contracts. And they mail them out, and people would have to mail them back. What he was asking us to do was that people had 6 months to come and take a look at the property, and if they wanted their money back, they could get their money back, whatever deposit they had put up. Flagler Estates, the solidification rate was in the 90%. It was higher than Palm Coast. Amazing. We had a pilot, there was a guy who worked for us, it was a pilot, and he would, Stan Amos, and he would take him up in an airplane, he'd fly him over and he said, your lot's gonna be right down there somewhere. It was just an amazing thing that happened. They did everything they said they were gonna do. They're gonna build the roads. They built their own taxing district, and they had their own maintenance shop out there, own people. He said, we're going to do that, and so that they can maintain it. They covered the maintenance issue right off the bat, the drainage and the maintenance. Needs improvement, believe me, but anyway, it's in the process. But I thought then, you know, somebody had an incredible dream. Somebody saw something I didn't see. There was a vision going on in Miami that was affecting the community. It was incredible. I just thought it was incredible that people had that kind of vision. They did the same thing in Ocala, and they did it three or four places all over the state of Florida. They were selling lots all over the state of Florida. And some of the same people still own those lots, right? And so anyway, I wanted to mention that to you. So they found a niche, and then what we're providing today is dynamic training for entrepreneurs. I want you to be entrepreneurs, not just real estate salespeople. I want you to become entrepreneurs and realize that this business has much more to offer than we haven't even touched the surface yet. After me being in the business 56 years. And so today we're gonna find it, the riches in the niches. In other words, we're looking always for what is the market? What are the needs? What are we looking for? What are people really looking for us? Why can't we make more sales? Why don't we get more calls? Why? Where's the money? Show me the money, okay? And so we have to show the money. So when Faith did that book for me, I didn't have any idea about being able to use it for training today, but to tell you the truth, that is an incredible book. And with the information that we did, if I could do that with no money back 50 years ago, or 40 years ago, then you can do it now, because there's a lot more money, a lot more people, a lot more buyers, a lot more sellers than there was when I started it. So, did I make mistakes? Oh my God, ever. I hope she didn't put that in the book. But yes, I made plenty of mistakes, you know, unbelievable. unbelievable how many mistakes, but we were determined. We were determined. My brother Roland, my brother David, and myself, and our sister Janine, who we went to visit with yesterday,
And your mom?
and our mother, yeah, my mother Estelle. This business has blessed all of us. It has truly blessed us. So, anyway, I want you to have your printout, and let's go through here. I'm going to show you something, and we'll put the thing back up on the screen. I'm going to show you how we're going to marry. Now let's go to Hastings. Okay. When you get to Hastings, look on page 2. We're going to find a niche in the market. We're going to find a spot in the market, and we're going to fill the spot, okay? Now, when I started, y'all have heard me tell this story. I'm going to tell you again because I want you to get this. I want you to get this. I want you to get it for you, not for me. I already know. I already have it, but I want you to get it. Okay. Here is what I want you to do. I want you to imagine yourself. You need more copies? So, I want you to imagine yourself going to the motel room like we did. We had 3,700 acres of land for sale. We didn't have any idea who a customer was, who could buy that land for $375,000. I had a young sales, I was in my 20s, and I had a young agent, younger than me, all right? We went to Jacksonville because it was so costly to call long distance from here to Jacksonville at that time. We went to Jacksonville, we checked in the motel, we got connecting rooms. And this is determination, and this is what I'm trying to convey to you. You have it, all you gotta do is use it, you have it. We stayed in that motel room, we took the yellow pages of the phone directory, we didn't know one living soul. We called every doctor, every lawyer, every dentist, every CPA, everybody that we thought had $10,000. The guy that had bought an option on the land for $50 an acre, we wanted to sell it for $100 an acre. Now you're talking about flipping land. This is a big tract, but it was all swamp. It sat a beautiful waterfront, a deep creek. It went right out to the St. Johns River, but not a living soul lived on it. But we were trying to find people that wanted to invest in that property. Well, he had a little boat, my friend. He would take the people down the creek, the wives and the kids and everybody down the creek and show them. I was on the phone steady calling these doctors, steady calling these lawyers, steady calling everybody. Now I'm talking about a niche in the marketplace. This is a big niche. This is a big opportunity. And I tell you to make up a list of people, make a recommendation that you list a list of people that you can contact about real estate, and you don't do it. I don't understand that. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I was fired up about it, and we went there, but it took us 18 days. I would bring my clothes home, and my wife would wash the clothes, and we'd go right back to do it. We would stay there in that motel room, and we would call, and back in those days, I did drink, I don't do it anymore. But anyway, back in those days, we would go down to the bar, but we'd tell the girl who was taking the call, so please don't put it through in the bar, and come get us, and we would go out and return. Guys, I met people, we put that deal together. The guy was screaming at us, he was yelling, please, make more calls, make more calls, make more calls, you know? And it was, anyway, he said, we can take a dredge and dredge the creek out and pump the swamp full. Thank God we didn't do that, okay? Thank the good Lord we didn't do that. 18 days, we made a $50-some thousand commission. He kept bumping the commission to get us to make more calls, okay? He was bumping it. So, but I learned something then, and what came from there, and I thought about you, all of you, and we're going to talk about for a minute a limited partnership. I had never heard the term limited partnership. I had never heard it before. We were up there in the motel calling people up. We had no earthly idea how, if you got a bunch of people together, how they're going to own it. What entity are they going to use, and how are they going to own it, you see? Well, it became a very important part. So all of a sudden, we had a young doctor and we had an old doctor, and the old doctor made lots and lots of money, and the young doctor was just getting started good, but he was really interested in the land. But the old doctor says, if you put a mortgage on it, I'm not signing only my part. Do what? I'll only sign the part that I owe. I'm not signing what he owes, okay? And so all of a sudden, we get a lawyer involved in it. He says, you have a limited partnership. The limited partner only signs his portion. I'll show you in a few minutes. I've got a pie for you. And So we saw then an idea that I had never heard of before, wasn't taught anywhere I'd ever been, and I thought, my goodness, here we go. So when we closed it out, we became the general partner in a limited partnership. We didn't own any equity in it, we were just a general partner, and we got the listing back on the property when they decided to sell it. But they wanted to hold it for a year so they could take long-term capital gains and all the benefits. And I didn't think they would ever sell it, but they did. Now the Water Management District owns it, thank God, but so it didn't get destroyed. And it's not a living human being lives on that creek all the way from Hastings Deep Creek all the way out to the St. Johns River. Most beautiful ride you'll ever see in a boat. If you get a little boat, go up there. You'll see the biggest old alligators and all you've ever seen. It's just an amazing, and the birds, it's just gorgeous. So thank God the developers didn't get a hold of that. So limited partnership. So we all get together and today we could all form a partnership. We could all say that we put up $100 today and we're gonna form a partnership, okay? We could be buying a deal before dark today from who we are and where we are sitting right here today, all right? Now, what does that mean? That means if we all put up $100 and we said we were gonna have a limited partnership but I'm gonna buy 2 shares and I can put up $200 and you can put up $200, the next thing you know, how many shares do we need? How many shares do we need to put this limited partnership together? The partnership could go together today. Right now, within the next 2 hours, we could put together a limited partnership that would allow you to start to think out of the box. Thinking out of the box will help you, first of all, decide what entity you wanna use to have this property. We're gonna make an offer. We're gonna make an offer. All right, we can make that offer today, we can make an offer to buy an option, we can make an offer to get it in contract, we can make an offer for owner financing, we can make an offer any way we want to make an offer. Now, the entity that we use, you see, may determine who we get involved. The limited partnership is a good idea. We had these guys that wouldn't sign each other's mortgage. See, in other words, when you have a mortgage and you say you owe $100,000, you sign that mortgage, you owe $100,000. You owe $100,000. Okay. Now, if I sign that same mortgage, I owe $100,000. But say, Terry, it's only $100,000. 10 people sign that mortgage. We're all liable for that $100,000. You understand that? Okay. I want to make sure you understand that. What does that mean? That means that if my good friend Mario Sterling writes books and retired from the Water Management District and is maybe he's rich. Okay. He's rich with me regardless, but let's say, assume that was the case. And he says, Terry, I'm not gonna sign that. I'm gonna be a 10% partner. I'll sign 10% of the debt. I'll only sign $10,000. Now, all of a sudden, who's gonna finance? How are we gonna do it? That's why we use the limited partnership. I just want you to think about that because you're gonna run into that and you're gonna run into it soon. I challenge every one of you today, as we sit here in this chair, you to write down 10 names of 10 people that you think that has $100,000 that they would invest possibly in real estate. I want you to do it. I'll make the phone calls for you. I'll work with you. You give me the numbers and come back there and I'll make the phone calls, okay? We got a scheduled time when we can do it. I'll make the phone calls. Now, what does that mean? That means we're thinking out of the box. We're gonna put deals together that we didn't even know existed today. And we're gonna ride down the road and we're gonna find a vacant land. We're gonna contact the owners and we're gonna see if they wanna sell. And if they do, how much and what is the zoning? All right? We're gonna start asking intelligent questions about the very business that we're in, the real estate business. I know that most of our time is spent in residential real estate and I'm not trying to change that. I'm trying to get you to take your thought process to level number 2. So the limited partnership is a vehicle. What's wrong with it? A lot. It's difficult to finance. It's difficult to finance. I had one we were putting together a few years ago. In fact, I'll tell you where it is. It's down here where they built this Silver Treasures or whatever it is. This is nursing home. Assisted living place down on 207. We bought that property. We put together another salesman. I went knocked on these doors, calling all these people. We had put together 10 shares, 11. What I'm gonna show you today is a pie that has 11 shares. One share is a paid up share that the general partner is going to keep. The other 10 shares are all equal shares. That doesn't mean you can't buy more than one, because you could. That is a way to put something together immediately. And you have the power. You have the power. All you need is the experience. You have the power, you have the ability. Everybody in this room can do it. And all I'm asking you to do is think out of the box, get out, and let's go put some things together that we dream about. Now, we kept that property. I kept a paid up share. As a broker, we made a commission when we put the property together, and I kept a 10% paid up share. I didn't pay anything for that share. Wasn't long before we cut the timber off the property, and I got paid some money, all right? And wasn't long after that I read in the newspaper that they were going to 4-lane 207, and they were going to run the water and sewer, and they were going to build a county golf course. Now, this is going back a few years ago, right? Guys, we kept the property for 15 years before the county did all the things that they said they were going to do. But they did. We get an offer to sell it, and partners all voted to sell it, and I get a check for $190,000. Right? Now, why I'm telling you that was the structure gave me my paid up share. I was smart enough to put that together with a paid up share. So I didn't have to make any payments on the land. I didn't have to pay the taxes. I didn't have to do any of that. But because of what we know how to do, and it's things that I'm telling you now that you can do, we can do almost anything you can dream up in the real estate business if the numbers work. It's all about the numbers. Show me the numbers. Show me the money. And that's what we're really talking about. So one way to affect that, and that was a limited partnership we put together. And when we sold it, everybody was thrilled. They all made a lot of money with it. They made double, but they had to hang on to it for a long time. General partnership. It's an easier one. We can elect who's going to be the manager of the partnership, and everybody owns it, and everybody signs it, and now we have a general partnership. If you get people that won't sign each other's mortgage note, you see, then you have to change what kind of entity you use. Or you can buy your share of it in a different entity. In other words, if we have a general partnership and I have a corporation called the Facsetti Group, and I want to buy an interest in that corporation, I could own my share of that in that corporation. Now, but the whole idea of the limited partnership is to limit the liability of an individual in case that you are putting a mortgage on the property. And so, if the down payment is large enough, then maybe you don't mind. I'm not concerned about it. If you have to take it, you have to foreclose and take that person's interest in it. You have to foreclose and take that person's interest. So, anyway, this is not intended to be a legal training, because I'm not a lawyer. So I'm just explaining some business entities that you can utilize in your thinking, because everything you can think of for us to do is in that book right there. We did it. We've already done it. It's in the book that Faith made for me many years ago. Land trust. Guys, we probably have 20 projects going on right now with different investors. Each one of them are in some kind of a land trust or some kind of a trust agreement. A land trust is simple. I have a partner, just called me a few minutes ago, bought a house, put the title to the property in a land trust. The land trust was formed by the title company. While we sat there, the land trust's name is the name of the address of the property. Like this property here is in 2520 State Road 207 Land Trust. It's been in there for years, and the trustee is my daughter Suzanne. And so something happens to me, I know exactly what's going to happen with this property, where it's going, and who's getting what, and so forth. And that's one of the things that we were able to do. So, do I recommend the land trust for a long-term process like that? Not really. But it's a vehicle, and all it does is says, who gets what and who does what. In other words, you're gonna perform a certain function, you're gonna get paid for that, or your percentage is gonna be this, or your percentage is gonna be that. So I have 4 children and 8 grandkids and 2 great-grandchildren. I have a wonderful daughter-in-law, 3 wonderful sons-in-law, and so I think about all of them and what can we do that would enhance their lives. And we came up with a slogan a few years ago, and the slogan is like this: own the house. You want to buy a new car? It's own the house. You can pay your own money for it too. Go out and work hard and raise some money and pay your own bill. Pay for the car if you want to. Or you can learn how to buy and sell properties. And if you don't have the money, that's what we're talking about today, is partners and partnerships and entities that you can make the money to buy that car. So you don't have to spend your own money to do it, you see. And so we call that own the house. Send your kids to college, own the house. Buy whatever you want, own the house. Plan your vacation, own the house, okay? Now, that sounds kind of a parochial, I know, but it's a fact. It's a fact. We have another book, and I'll introduce it to you. I think you've already seen it. It's called the 10-10-10 Plan. How to buy 10 houses, how to pay for them in 10 years, and how to retire with $10,000 a month income. How anybody can do it. Anybody. Did you hear that? Anybody. Think about what I just said. Anybody can do it. So why don't more people do it? Here's why. Because they don't have the experience and they don't believe it's for them. That's the problem, is getting people to change how they think. This business is all about how we think. I think I can do almost anything in this business, and I can. Now, I'm trying to convey that to you. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And yes, we will. That is the answer. That is the response. And that's exactly what I mean. When we sit down here and we talk about this, we mean this, okay? Now, how do you know I mean it? Well, number one, you could go take a look at Facebook and see all the projects that we've done. But number 2 is we do it every day. In addition to listing and selling real estate, we buy and sell properties every day, all the time. We have a network of investors that we've attracted. Some of them have outlived them, unfortunately, that we did from that motel room visit that we did, made all those phone calls. I had people that I did business with for 40 years after that. One of them was an open heart surgeon, and we bought and sold properties together. And so you have to find your niche. You have to find it. There's a lot of money in niches and getting good at it. So that's why some people specialize in different forms of the business, and that's why we came up with a diversified interest. I had bankers try to tell me, and I didn't listen. I was a hard-headed, stubborn mule when it came to listening, and I should have listened. I had a banker tell me one time, Terry, you get too many things going at one time. Why don't you just do one? And I thought that wasn't nearly fast enough. You know, that's not quick enough. I want to get this done. I'm ambitious. I want to get this done. And he told me that. He said, it makes it hard for me to lend you money. He said, because you've got too much on your plate. And I left the bank mad at him. Then I had another banker, and when I started doing my first project, and I was selling lots and taking back mortgages, and I actually contracts for deed, and I would take them down to the bank, and the bank was collecting them, and all of a sudden I had $200,000 worth of contracts for deed. The bank was collecting, and I had a contractor come by, and I had to build 2 miles of 50-foot wide, 25-foot wide canals down the middle of a swamp. I had to dig 2 miles. Well, that cost a lot of money. It was heavily tree growth. So I got a contractor. He gave me a bid price of $90,000. Well, back in those days, $90,000 was a lot of money. But I didn't have $90,000, so I go down to the bank. I said to the banker, I said, Mr. Banker, I want to borrow $100,000 against my $200,000 worth of mortgages. So he said, yeah, I'll take it to committee. Called me back a few days, said, Terry, we cannot lend you any money. I said, why? My credit was good and y'all are collecting the mortgages. Why? He said, this is not a typical type loan that we would make. And the fact is that we just can't do it. It doesn't have a thing to do with you personally. It's that the the entity, the way you operate it, is not financeable for us. I was crushed. I was literally crushed. So I left the bank. Of course, I was mad at the banker, but I realize now how right he was. He told me, he said, Jerry, if you would keep 10% of your net worth and what you're trying to do in liquid money in this bank, we could do almost anything you want to do. But we can't see where, if these people quit paying, that you could make the payments on that. And they said, so we can't do it. So they weren't lending on that. It was strictly on me. So anyway, I saw in the paper, and this was great. The guy was advertising in the paper, we buy mortgages. Okay, call him up. Name was Charlie Cash out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'll never forget him long as I live. He said, Master Passetti, he said, if you'll send me a copy of some of your mortgages, he said, I'll make you an offer. I said, offer? I thought $100,000 worth of mortgages was worth $100,000. I was about to get my education. It cost me millions of dollars to be sitting here today for the stupid mistakes I made, to be able to share with you and teach you things that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And that is the power of a mentor, which I did not have, and I probably wouldn't have listened to him anyway. All right? So, here's what I'm saying. He offered me $75,000 for the $200,000 worth of mortgages. I fell out of my chair. I was crushed, I thought. He said, you didn't have any structure in those mortgages. You wrote them for 40 years or whatever a person could pay. You just wrote them a mortgage, right? And he said, you didn't have any balloon in it. He said, there's not one thing I did. He said, I'll make you an offer. So finally I got him up to $100,000 because I needed $90,000 to pay the contractor, and I sold my first $200,000 worth of mortgages. Now, I'm only telling you that to tell you that that was a barter. That was a bartering power I didn't have. I had no other way to get that money to build those roads and dig those 2 miles of canals down the middle of that swamp, okay? The land was right on the railroad, right across from the airport, St. Augustine Airport. The land was high, and then it was low, then it was high, then it was low, and so it lent itself perfectly to digging those canals. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that because with that, he taught me a lot. Not long ago, I bumped into the banker who's retired, and I told him, I said, you were right. You were certainly right. I was wrong. I just didn't listen. I was hard-headed, and I didn't listen. So it made my life more difficult because I was fearless about making something work. I was willing to give it to go, and that's what I did. So I learned a lot about entities and not to do and what things. I learned a lot about what not to do. So anyway, LLC, Limited Liability Company. Everybody ought to have one. You should have one. Everybody needs an LLC, okay? Why do you need an LLC? Because you can start to build your own fortunes in the LLC. Your LLC can be ownership, your interest in anything that you want to do it in. In other words, we all want to do a joint venture here today. And let's say, assume I want to do mine in a corporation and Maurice wants to do his in the LLC and whatever. And so all of a sudden we have the ability to make this work. All right. So anyway, I just want to point out to you the different entities because we're going to do something here in a few minutes. The General Corporation Passetti Realty Company is a general real estate corporation. It is a general real estate corporation that trading as Homestar Passetti Realty Network, okay? Passetti Realty Company is a corporation, general corporation, that is trading as Homestar Passetti Realty Network. Could it be something else? Yes, it could. And the reason we did that was because around here, everybody knew the name. When you get out of here, nobody can spell it, okay? And so that's why we changed it and did what we did. So, but the general corporation will allow you to do all kinds of things, but you have to get tax advice about which one of these entities to use because it has an effect on your income taxes. And don't ask me for tax advice because I don't know anything. Subchapter S corporation means that maybe you don't have to pay corporate tax, right? Maybe you can have the profits passed through to you without having to pay corporate tax. Check with your accountant. Contract for deed. We wrote our own contracts for deed, okay? I couldn't believe that we had a lawyer draw up an entity, the entity was a contract for deed. So if I want to sell you property, back in those days, you didn't have to foreclose on a contract for deed. When it came out, the law that you had to foreclose, if a person quit paying you for 60 days, you just owned the property again. And it was not a recorded document. But when they started recording the document, then that didn't satisfy the courts. The court says you have to, once you give a person title to a property in whatever entity, they have title to the property, all right? Now, that means if they don't pay you, you have to foreclose, all right? You have to go through a legal procedure to do it. But a contract for deed is still a good system. That means it's owner financing. You hear the term all the time. I'm looking for owner financing. I'm looking for rent to own. I'm looking for this. I'm looking. What they're really talking about is I want the seller to finance it for me, and I would give them a contract for deed, okay? Which means that once I perform all the functions required in that contract for deed, I get a deed. Then it's paid for and I get a deed. We hear it all the time. We hear people that said, I paid, and now the people are dead, or they died, or they did something else, there's other liens on the property, some problems, okay? So we don't want to do anything that we don't record. We want to make sure that we protect our buyers and our sellers with the right kind of documentation. It is a facilitator of putting together a transaction, and a good one. We've used it over and over and over. We've done hundreds of contracts for deed. I get a call not long ago, something we did 40-some years ago, that there was a mistake in the legal description. The surveyor missed some call, and I had to go out and sign a quitclaim deed to straighten it up, which I did. So people that bought that from me that many years ago is still sitting on it. Owner financing is one way. Owner financing means that people's willing to take back a mortgage. It's an inclusive kind of a term because it could be a contract for deed, but typically it would be a mortgage. You give a person a deed and they give you back a mortgage. Now they own the property, you own the mortgage. The mortgage is a lien against the property. The mortgage itself is the security for the debt. The mortgage note is the promise to pay. I promise to pay, okay, but I want a security with a contract for deed, right? I want the property secure with the deed. So, deed, we're gonna secure the property, the mortgage, we're gonna secure the property. The mortgage note is our promise to pay. That's very important, and most people do not understand that, and I want to tell you that that's a fact. And so when you get into a lawsuit over a foreclosure, a person does not have to foreclose the property, they can sue you on the note, okay? Now, some of these mortgage companies got to the point where they did not want the real estate back. They'd much rather have a judgment against you. That doesn't mean that they don't have the right to go back and foreclose that mortgage, because they can. What it does mean is it just means more aggravation for you, and it's just because you want to let a property go doesn't mean that you're going to not end up with summary final judgment against you. You're not going to end up with a deficiency judgment or whatever against you. You have to be careful about this stuff. It's important for you to learn these entities and study this thing and have a mentor that knows something about what we're talking about, and have a good real estate lawyer that you use, good title companies and people that you can depend on because nobody's an expert in all this. I'm not an expert in the legalese of all of that. I just know these entities because we've used them in many cases over and over. Now, reverse mortgage. No, family trust. Guys, every person, human being, needs a family trust. If you don't have one, you're jeopardizing your family that you love, that you're working for. You're jeopardizing them. What does that mean? That means that you don't have stability if you're not here. Stability in what you want to happen in your group. What do you want to happen in your family? You got to write it down and do it. And so I'm asking you to consider all these things today as opportunities for you to learn and earn more money. Reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage has got the best use of any possibility that I've seen since I've been in the business. Let me give you a good example of what I'm talking about, okay? Most people make money in this business and they spend it. And they don't plan for their future. I know what, I know. Don't plan for the future. Don't have don't have an entity, don't have a plan, don't have a program that you contribute to consistently. And this business can be a wonderful business, but it could also be a terrible. We have a family member that Dave and I helped this family member get a house. We completely remodeled the house. And she was able to live there for years and years and years without making a payment, okay? Unless you have somebody that you want to leave your house to, I'm talking about your house that you live in, you do not owe it to them to let yourself die while you're trying to pay for a house so that they can sell it the minute you die, okay? You do not owe that to them, all right? Now, some people have family members that they want to have the home they're gonna live in it, right? But we see this all the time. The reverse mortgage does this. Let's assume I own a house free and clear. But I don't have enough income. I need more income. So I need to find this, I need to figure out how to do it. Now, if I go borrow against this house, I can't make the payments. So if I took the money and I had a regular mortgage on it, and I went and bought a house, I've got to make payments on this house where I borrowed the money. And now I'm gonna buy something else to increase. I didn't increase anything. All I did was increase my debt. That's what I really did. Because I don't care about ownership, I care about income. Now, reverse mortgage, all right? This is a very important thing. People talk nasty about the reverse mortgage. I think it's the greatest thing in the world for certain people, certain circumstances. For instance, you got your home paid for, or just about paid for, or whatever, and you can get enough money out of the reverse mortgage, which is only about 50%, depends on your age, and you could pay that mortgage off, or you refinance it. Now I don't have, we have a friend, a customer, somebody went to high school with. We got a reverse mortgage. If not, she would be living on the streets today, guys. Living on the streets. She would have no home. She's got a home, and she can stay there until she dies, okay? She can stay in that home for the rest of her life. Now, that person has got, all they have to pay is the taxes and insurance. The person got behind with the taxes and insurance. We were able to help her catch up so she didn't lose her home. You see, so all they have to pay is the taxes and insurance. How much does that cost? It costs $100 a month. So out of their Social Security income, they have to pay $100 a month. Now, here's how you can benefit with the reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage, if you didn't have a mortgage or you didn't have much mortgage, that you could get some equity, you put a 50% reverse mortgage on your house and you ended up with some money. If you take that money and you go down here and you buy an income producing property, okay, that produced income for you, so that now you took over here and you put a reverse mortgage and you don't have to make a payment on that except the taxes and insurance, and you took that money and you went over here and bought a house that provided you an income, or maybe it bought you a flip house and gave you some equity, gave you something. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Thinking out of the box. Look at this stuff. This is real. All this is real. So, reverse mortgage has a place. Is it for everybody? No. Does a person get to stay in the house if they go in a nursing home? No. If they're out of it a year, they could end up losing. What happens with the house if they die? It goes to the heirs. Okay? It goes to the heirs. And so, reverse mortgage is a good thing. Understand it, use it, necessary, and you'll find people that come here and can buy a house in reverse mortgage. They have enough down, but they're 62 years old and they don't have any income. Why in the world would we sell them something where they're going to have to make a payment when they could get a reverse mortgage to buy the house? They can buy the house with a reverse mortgage. They don't have to have any debt, you see. They don't have to have any payment debt. They're going to have a mortgage on the property, but it's going to be a reverse mortgage. All the reverse mortgage does, it works in reverse. Exactly what it means. Now you don't make any payment. What happens next month? The interest goes up. What happens next month? The debt goes up. Who cares? You're doing it so you don't have to make a payment, so you can enjoy the remainder of your life, okay? I'm advising everybody in this room, if you're 62 years old or older, you need to have a conversation with somebody that understands the reverse mortgage and how it works, and I do understand that. And I used to be a mortgage broker, and I did reverse mortgages, so we do understand that. And I'm just telling you, if we're sitting on equity in a house that's gonna get sold the day you die, why are you doing it? Why are you doing that to yourself when you need that money now to live on? Okay, if they want the house when you're gone, that's fine, they can buy it, because you might get in a market like this where it might be worth a whole lot more. And it may be, maybe the market went down and you don't care, you walk away from it. The heir has no liability. The heir has no liability in that mortgage. Do you understand that? You have not signed anything, it is not your debt, you don't owe it. That was grandma's house and she left it to me, and now I can sell it. If I want to, I can rent it out, I can refinance it, I've got all the options. All right, you with that? All right, grants. There are grants, and we're going to explore, not today, but in the future, we're going to explore grants. About 20 years ago, we saw in the newspaper where they were going to tear our school down, Hastings High School. A group of us got together and decided that was the most asinine thing we'd ever heard of, was to tear that 28,000 square foot beautiful building built out of the same materials as the Ponce de Leon Hotel. They were going to tear it down. Had already let the contract on it to tear it down. A group of us got together, it was about 100 people showed up down at the school. We didn't want them to tear that building down, all right? So, we went before the school board, we went and found the contractor. He'd already let the contract. He was on his way there and his machine broke down, or the school building would have been torn down the next day. We went and found the contractor, and a group of us gave him $5,000 not to tear it down for 3 weeks, to give us a chance to save it. We would buy out his contract, and we had some rich farmers involved in it. We would buy out his contract, give him the same margin of profit we'd make if we tore it down, if the school board would allow it. We hired a lawyer, we went before the school board, and they said, you know, to us, we gotta get rid of it, it's just it's a mess. Went to the county commission, said, county commission, will you please take the building? Please take the building, let us have, first of all, we wanted the building, our alumni, which was a 501(c)(3), but they wouldn't give it to anybody but another government agency. So, went to the county said, we'd love to help you, but we don't have any money in the budget. So I went to the town of Hastings, back then it was a town, said, town, please take the building that's in your town. Hastings doesn't need a wrecking ball in this town to tear that building down. That's the last thing you need. So we were prepared to file suit to stop the tearing it down. And the town of Hastings said, we don't have the money to tear it down. If you guys can't perform, what do we do? We said, and as to say, some of the wealthiest farmers were there. They said, listen, we'll tear it down. If it comes to that, we'll tear it down ourselves. And we'll haul it off, no cost to the city of Hastings. Well, the city of Hastings agreed to take that property. But the city of Hastings got approved for grants. We had a guy stand up in our meeting and he said, we meet every week in Hastings. And this guy came and he said, he introduced himself. He said, I'm a professional grant writer. He said, I'm not looking for business. I won't accept one dime. I want to help you guys save this building. Boy, did he ever. He raised over $2 million in state grants to save that building, okay? Now that was not a profit center for any of us. We loved that building and there was no reason to tear that building down. And we were prepared to fight right to the bitter end with that building. But that $2 million restored that building. Now they're talking about tearing it down again, right? 20 years later. So
How many years was that?
20 years about. So we're prepared to fight if we have to. Joint ventures. Marty Sterling and I want to buy property together. We are joint venture partners, okay? What kind of entity do we want to have? We can have a joint venture entity. It says who does what, who gets what, who puts up what, and so forth. It just lays it out what you do. So we can write it out. We can write it out on a piece of brown paper. and have a joint venture agreement between us that would be a legal document that we could sign, okay? If we wanted to do that, we can do it. Marty says no more books because I give them away, but anyway. But regardless of that, the fact is, we could all become joint venture partners today, all right? Together individually, or all of us together, if each one of us wanted to put up $1 today, we could have a joint venture. All of us could be joint venture partners. We could do things that we didn't dream we could do. We could make decisions. We can be board of directors. We can be whatever we want to be. We could absolutely put a joint venture together today, and that it gives you a power. You are to leave here empowered to know that if you've got somebody out there that has money and you want to do some kind of a real estate transaction, bring them in here. We'll get them put together, put the right entity together. We're doing it with a bunch of people. We got people that are attracted to it because of our experience in the business. And that's not all good experience. Part of that's been tough to get here for 56 years, but we're here. Return on investment. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. Had a guy in here recently. He said that on the money he had in the bank, he was making 1.5% or something. He said, we're not keeping up with inflation. He said, I'm going behind every month. He said, I'll be broke in just a matter of time. I'm going broke with money in the bank. He thought, my God, I am literally going broke with money in the bank. How do you go broke with money in the bank? Whenever the cost of things go up more than the money that you're making, you're not making any return on your investment. So it's ROI, return on investment. Show me the money. That's what it's all about. Show me the money. If you have the money, you show me how you make money, I'd be interested, right? And so that is, everybody should be concerned about that. Show me the money. All right, we're going to show you our program in just a minute, and we're going to take a break in a minute and have one of Linda's donuts she brought for us. Look at this. We're going to teach you how you can put together most realistically priced and planned real estate venture. How do you do it? You got to know what you're talking about. Once you got the experience in the business and you know what you're talking about, you can attract people to you because everybody wants to make more money, but they want to make it safely. They don't want to take a chance. They don't want to lose any money. They want to know what's going on. If needed, if the demand is compelling. What does that mean? That means not just a flibbertigibbet that you make a little here and make a little there. We want to know that demand is here. The demand in St. Augustine real estate right now is the hottest I've ever seen it. Okay? Can it last? I don't think so. What is going to change it? The only thing that's going to allow it to last, in my opinion, is the government's going to have to prop it up, and that's what's happening right now. The delinquency rate on FHA mortgages is the highest it's ever been, and the government has no choice but to prop that up because the delinquency rate is so high. And of course, a lot of it's caused by this virus that affected our economy so bad. But we're going to show you the use of how to use the 14-point program. I want you to show this plan. I want you to come in this office and get that on the computer, and I want you to show this plan, and I want you to recruit. This past 2 weeks, y'all have seen me recruit, okay? And that's what I'm doing. I'm asking people to come down and take a look at what we do. And if they don't have a license, I'm referring them to Kathleen. She's got 5 or 6 new people going in a new class right now, okay? And that's what we're doing. So those people can go to work for anybody they want to when they get out. All we're trying to do in the meantime is show them what we do. Everybody else is dimension number one. And I invite everybody in this room, if you want to be just a dimension number one agent, go wherever you want to go, okay? And be with whoever you want to be with, because that's all you're going to learn. That's a tragedy of what I'm talking about this morning. Nobody teaches this kind of stuff. You see, not in the real estate brokerage business. You don't get it in a brokerage house. That's why Faith and I and Maurice were working on franchising our company. We probably will end up franchising this company because we have the very best real estate plan there is in the industry, in my opinion. And if I could find a better one, I'd buy it, even if it was a franchise. You see, because we believe that you are much better off to know this stuff than your only limitations, but all the others. It's frustrating for me, as you can tell, after 56 years in this business, to see people, like the young man I had that came to work with me, and when I had a little office in Satsuma, he was 21 years old. Now he is 36 or 7 years old. He sent me a text recently on his birthday. He said, "You changed my life. You changed my life." He said, he has made millions of dollars in this business. Millions, I'm talking about millions. He just sold a property recently on the other side of the interstate for $7 million. He paid less than $1 million for it, all right? But he had the $1 million to buy it with, you see, and that's the difference in what we're talking about. So, we're gonna take a break now, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes, okay? And let's finish up. I've got a lot of stuff I wanna go over with you on the 12-point program, and so.